Modern dunya utensai ber zayaflik olarak gurua, terapisler anden kurtelmei ergratier, kitapler kendin davran der, ama 300 yıl ernst, utens daimien insan kabalden atelieri, vi kabalden atalak erlumdu, utensin sini mavadigini düşünüyorsan, aslinda sini burada, tuten şeybu. Think about the last time you felt it, not the big ones, not the catastrophic failures that everyone agrees were worth feeling bad about, the small ones, the moment you said something at the wrong time in a conversation and watched the room shift slightly, the moment you tripped in public and felt the blood rush to your face before you'd even finished falling, the moment you ate too much, spent too much, said too much, and spent the next 3 hours alone with it. That feeling, warm, heavy, like something pressing from the inside out, shame. Here is what nobody tells you about shame. It is not a side effect of civilization. It is not something your parents installed in you, or your culture taught you, or your therapist is trying to uninstall. Shame is older than language, older than agriculture, older than the first human settlement ever built. Shame is a survival system, and it has been running in your body, flawlessly, continuously, for 300,000 years. The question is not how to get rid of it. The question is why it exists at all. Here is what we have been told about shame, that it is destructive, that it is the emotion most correlated with depression, addiction, and self-destruction, that healthy people feel guilt, which motivates change, but not shame, which only attacks the self. Brené Brown built an entire career on this distinction. Thousands of therapists repeat it daily. The message is consistent. Guilt is about what you did. Shame is about who you are, and shame will eat you alive. This is true. In the modern world, chronic shame, unresolved, unseen, carried alone, is genuinely destructive. The research is real, damage is real, but here is what that framework completely misses. Shame was never designed to be carried alone. It was designed to be witnessed. Imagine you are not sitting where you are right now. Imagine you are in a group of 30 people. You have known every single one of them your entire life. You were born into this group. You will die in this group. Every face is familiar. Every voice is familiar. The way each person moves, eats, sleeps, reacts, you know all of it, and they know all of you. In this world, your reputation is not abstract. It is not a LinkedIn profile or a social media presence. Your reputation is the living, daily record of whether you can be trusted, whether you pull your weight when the hunting is bad, whether you share when the food is scarce, whether you show up when someone needs you to show up. And one day you don't. Maybe you took slightly more than your share. Maybe you stayed back when the group needed you to go forward. Maybe you said something that undermined someone who trusted you. It doesn't matter exactly what it was. What matters is this: the group saw it. In that moment, your body does something remarkable. Your face flushes, your eyes drop, your shoulders round inward, your voice, if you speak at all, becomes smaller. Every visible signal your body can produce says the same thing simultaneously to every person watching. I know what I did. I am not a threat. I am not indifferent. I see it too. This is not weakness. This is one of the most sophisticated social signals the human body has ever evolved. Because here is what the shame display does. It stops the social punishment before it escalates. It says, before anyone has to say it out loud, I already know. You don't need to cast me out. I'm already correcting. The human who showed no shame after a violation was genuinely dangerous, not because of what they did, but because of what their lack of response communicated, that they didn't register the social contract as binding, that they couldn't be corrected, that they would do it again. That person was a real threat to group cohesion. That person got expelled. The person who flushed, who dropped their eyes, who made themselves small in exactly the right moment, that person was recoverable. That person still understood the rules. That person could be forgiven. Shame wasn't the thing that destroyed your place in the group. Shame was the thing that saved it. In 2009, a team of researchers led by June Price Tangney at George Mason University published a study that had been building for over a decade. They had tracked individuals across time, measuring their capacity for shame and guilt, their social functioning, their rates of addiction, incarceration, and psychological distress. The findings were complicated in a way that almost never gets reported. Yes, chronic, unresolved shame correlated with worse outcomes. The people who carried shame in isolation, who never had it witnessed or resolved, who internalized it as a permanent verdict on their identity, they suffered more. But there was another group, people who experienced shame quickly, expressed it visibly, had it witnessed by someone who mattered to them, and moved through it, those people showed something different: stronger social bonds, higher rates of what researchers called moral repair, a greater capacity to recover from failure without repeating it. The difference wasn't the shame itself. The difference was whether the shame had a witness. Let me take you somewhere older than that study, much older. In 2003, anthropologist Christopher Boehm published a book called Hierarchy in the Forest. In it, he compiled decades of research from hunter-gatherer societies across every inhabited continent: the Mbuti of the Congo, the Jew/Hoansi of the Kalahari, the Batek of Malaysia, the Hadza of Tanzania. He was trying to understand how small human groups maintained social equality across generations, without police, without courts, without written law. What he found was consistent across almost every group. The primary enforcement mechanism was not violence. It was not formal punishment. It was shame. When a member of the group began to accumulate too much food, too much status, too much influence, the group responded in a specific sequence. First, subtle mockery, at the person's expense, a slight withdrawing of warmth. If that didn't work, more direct criticism, public comment on the behavior. If that didn't work, ostracism. Boehm called this the reverse dominance hierarchy. Instead of the strongest individual dominating everyone else, the group collectively dominated the individual who was becoming too dominant. And the mechanism that made it work, the thing that made the individual respond to the group's signals before it escalated to ostracism, was their capacity to feel shame. I want you to really sit with this. For hundreds of thousands of years, your capacity to feel shame was the thing that kept you in the group, the thing that allowed you to be corrected without being expelled, the thing that made you readable to the people whose judgment determined whether you ate or starved, whether your children were protected or vulnerable, whether you survived the next winter. Shame wasn't a bug in human psychology. It was load-bearing infrastructure. Now think about what happens to shame in the modern world. You feel it, and there is no group. There is no circle of 30 people who have known you your whole life, who understand the context, who can witness the display and receive signal and respond with the forgiveness that the system was designed to produce. There is just you, alone with it, at 2 a.m., replaying a moment from 3 days ago or 3 years ago. The system was built for an audience. For the moment of visibility, the flushed face, the dropped eyes to be received by someone, for the signal to land somewhere, for the repair to happen in real time in front of real people and then to be done. Instead, we carry it in private. We perform the shame response, the flush, the internal collapse, but there is no one to receive it. The signal fires into an empty room, and because it has nowhere to go, it doesn't resolve. It repeats, and somewhere in the repetition, it stops feeling like a momentary signal and starts feeling like a permanent truth. I am not someone who did something wrong. I am someone who is wrong. This is where the modern framework gets it right, but for the wrong reason. Chronic, unresolved, privately carried shame is genuinely damaging. The research is correct. The therapy is correct. But the solution isn't to eliminate the shame response. The solution is to give it back what it was always designed to have: a witness. Think about the moments in your life when shame actually resolved, not when you argued yourself out of it, or distracted yourself from it, or waited long enough for it to fade, but when it actually released. Almost certainly someone else was involved. Someone saw it. Someone said something that acknowledged it without making it permanent. Someone laughed at exactly the right moment, or said, "I've done that too," or simply stayed in the room with you while you felt it. That is the ancient circuit completing itself. That is the system doing what it was designed to do, finally, after however many hours or days of misfiring. The shame arose, it was witnessed. The group, even a group of one, received the signal. And the system understood, repair is possible, you are still here, you are still recoverable. There is a practice among the Jew/Hoansi of the Kalahari, one of the most studied hunter-gatherer groups in the world, that researchers have called demand sharing. When one person in the group has more than another, the person with less simply asks, directly, without much preamble, and the person with more gives, not always willingly, not always without internal resistance, but they give. And the mechanism that makes this work, the reason the person with more doesn't simply refuse, doesn't hoard, doesn't build walls around their accumulation, is shame. The visible discomfort of being seen as someone who has and won't share. the flushed face of being the person in the group who is failing the social contract, the dropped eyes of knowing that everyone is watching and everyone knows. Researchers who first observed this sometimes described it as a kind of social pressure, a forced generosity, and in a modern framework, it might look that way, but look at it from inside the system. The shame response isn't the group punishing the individual. It's the individual's own body, doing in real time what it was built to do, recalibrating behavior to match the social contract. The body that flushes and yields is not a body being dominated. It is a body that has not forgotten what it is. Here is what I want you to take from this. The shame that visits you in the quiet hours, the moments you replay, the face flushes you remember, the times you made yourself small and wished you could disappear, that is not evidence of damage. That is not proof that something is fundamentally wrong with who you are. It is a system so old and so reliable that it has been running continuously since before your species had a name. A system that kept your ancestors in the group when they violated the rules. A system that made repair possible when rupture threatened everything. You were not born too sensitive. You were not broken by your childhood into someone who feels things too strongly. You are a social animal with a fully functioning social immune system, and that system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is not the shame. The problem is the witness. I'm not telling you to go perform your shame for everyone you meet. The modern world has real costs for visibility, and navigating them requires judgment your ancestors didn't need. Not every room is safe. Not every person is a reliable witness, but I am telling you this. The next time you find yourself at 2 a.m. with an old moment on loop, the same flush, the same internal collapse, the same verdict, consider what the system is actually asking for. It isn't asking you to feel worse. It isn't asking you to confirm that you are permanently, essentially wrong. It is asking for a witness, for someone to receive the signal it has been trying to send into an empty room for however long you've been carrying this. It might be a therapist. It might be a friend who has known you long enough to hold the context. It might be the person you wronged, if that repair is possible. It might just be saying it out loud once to someone who will stay in the room while you do. The signal needs somewhere to land. You come from people who felt shame in circles, in firelight, in front of the faces that mattered most, who dropped their eyes and flushed and made themselves small and were received, who completed the circuit that the system was designed to complete, who were forgiven not because they deserved it abstractly, but because they showed the group something real. I know what I did. I am still here. I am still trying. The shame that lives in you is not a wound. It is a signal, the most ancient social signal your body knows how to make. It was never meant to be a verdict. It was meant to start a conversation. Find your witness. You're still here. See you in the next one.